Don't blame the middleman, come to me. I'll tell you what I can, all you need. Cut out the middleman, wait and see.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Roy B. the Middleman podcast. Today I'm here with Danny Redbard, the facilitator of the work. And just before we get into what that all means, I'll just listen to a word from our sponsor.
If you're looking for a great new coffee, great food with a family atmosphere, somewhere where you feel like you're always coming home, the best hidden gem in the Gold Coast is the Solway Hub. Located opposite Harbour Town, 21 to 23 Eriton Drive, Arundel. I'll see you there.
Hello Danny, how are you today? I've noticed that you're on mute at the moment, so there we go. Cool.
I'm glorious, brother. You might be a little bit close to your mic too. It flares up a little bit.
Okay, yeah. I've got some of the still tweaking with the settings to get the S's and that out.
Yeah, cool. I am feeling glorious, man. I've woken up for my third day in Vietnam at the moment. I'm super enjoying Saigon, Ho Chi Minh, going on little tours every day. It's great.
Awesome. So, because you were in Bali, and what facilitated the move to Vietnam? Just jolly or work or?
Jolly, hilarious. It's good fun. Like visa stuff in Bali. I do live in Bali now in Indonesia. I love it. And there's like every 60 days, you've essentially got to leave the country to redo your visa. So making the most of it by spending 5 days in Vietnam and doing tours and having a laugh.
Nice. And is that indefinite, the 60 days, or just?
Or is depends what visas are a thing. Anyone listening right now knows that visas are a thing. You're British. I'm sure that you jump through the hoops to be in Australia for as long as you have. It's an interesting thing in our world.
Yeah, for me, I did a skilled visa that had permanent residency attached. So rather than get here in like 3 or 4 months, which a lot of POMs do, it took me 18 months to get my visa. But then I know I didn't have to get sponsored, and once I was here, that was it. So yeah, it took longer, but it was more secure.
I see it go down for a lot of people. It can be a very emotional thing for a lot of people, and I'm presencing that for the people that have experienced that but don't know why it's such an emotional roller coaster to be stuck in a little visa loop, or being stuck in, I don't know whether I'm going to be sent back home. It happens for a lot of people. It keeps them in survival is what's going on. That's why it's such an emotional thing for so many people. It's not for me. Like jumping countries while visa runs in Southeast Asia is a very different feeling than say moving to Australia or moving to a first world country and the government literally having your choice of where you live in their hands is such an interesting situation for a lot of people of the world to be in, and it keeps them in survival. And when we're in survival, we're not in a state of thriving. And so, yeah, it's an interesting feeling for people.
Yeah, no, I understand that one absolutely. And there's many different levels where we've got the survival going on, many different areas of life.
True.
Now, you said, like, before we started, asked how you wanted to be introduced, and you said a facilitator of the work. Yeah. So what's that actually mean to those uninitiated into that?
So the work, I say that because like I have multiple modalities and facilitation tools under my belt. Like I'm a spiral practitioner. I am a leader in the Mankind Project men's organization, which is worldwide, that runs off Fritz Perls' work, which is more the somatic style breakthrough work. You've seen it. It's real men's work. If you've ever seen men's work get done, it's quite somatic, like trust falls and those kind of things are like a somatic experience of feeling trust, right? It's those kind of processes. That's a lot of that is Fritz Perls' work, and he was one of the like his work was a foundation of NLP, neuro linguistic programming. So in the instance that we have an instance, in the knowing that we have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. Our unconscious mind right now is it's beating our heart for us. It's breathing our lungs for us when we're not focused on it. It's digesting our food for us. And it's digesting our food for us, and it's looking after us in that way. So it's completely trustworthy. And it also looks after all of our habits, right? All of our habits are held by our unconscious mind. Programming and all of our beliefs are held in the unconscious mind via language. And so programming using language is what I do best. Fritz Perls' work, and then became a master practitioner of NLP. So a lot of the reason why I had to say facilitator of the work is that I don't want to list all of those in a little in a 10-second intro. Who is Danny Redbard? It's like, it depends how deep you want to answer the question, you know.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like with my stuff, it varies from day to day on whatever I'm tuning into in the moment. So I just tend to go spiritual mentor and Reiki practitioner and keep them podcaster. So it's like those are the three umbrellas, but there's a lot of stuff underneath those three. It just makes it short and succinct.
That's great, man.
And so where are you from originally in Australia? Are you northern, if I remember rightly?
I'm from Tamworth, New South Wales, which is a country out in the west of New South Wales.
Oh, that's
So
right.
picture Sydney and then drive like 7 or so hours west, like northwest.
Yeah, that's I remember now because I think I'd have a chat with you about you being in the Northern Territories for a while.
I've been everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, global traveler. You ever been to England?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
I lived in Poplar in London for like 6 months.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know, well, I don't know Poplar, but I only know it from like because it's one of the underground stations that I probably went through a few times, traveling around. And so you're only going to be in Vietnam for about 5 days before you go back into Bali, and
Yeah. I'm loving the travels over here, man. I love immersing myself in culture. I even met some Indonesian crew yesterday on this tour and got to speak Bahasa with them, which is like the Indonesian word for language. And they were so excited that I could, that saya belajar Bahasa, that I'm learning Bahasa. And oh man, I just love it. I love how happy the locals all are over here. I love how far our dollar goes. I never really experienced this feeling until now of being like a white Western man whose money keeps the tourist places afloat and alive, you know, like me tipping me tipping village people over here, depending how much I tip them, can impact not only an entire family, but an entire community. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
making sure that like when these places rely so heavily on tourism as their highest industry, as their highest income industry, it's like, oh, it's almost like I've got a responsibility to be that person on that day to keep the cog of those families and that village turning. Do you know what I mean? And it's an interesting thing being is woven into culture and into you know, just having such an interest in social dynamics and the way of the world as being like what's right or wrong, or what can I do in this situation to better the situation or to help and support local. And often it is just showing up as a white man with money. And I'm like, that's legit. It's an interesting thing to be like, oh, what would love do right now? What would love do? Oh, love would tip heavily, you know, and play your role as like this white man with money that makes money online. I'm like, you know, when in Rome.
Yeah. And tipping heavily is not like when money's worth so much more than local currency is nothing to us.
Yeah, man. So it's an interesting thing, and I've never played this role before, and
I remember.
you know,
Yeah, so I remember a time when I was in Karachi yeah, Pakistan during my
Mhm.
time in the Royal Navy, and like we walk out the dockyard gates, and there's all these taxi drivers waiting there, and they are literally almost fighting each other to get us in the taxis, and we're like going, guys, there's so many of us, we're going to fill every taxi that's here right now.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, like, you know, because they know they're going to get probably a year's worth of wages out of it, and we're
Well,
only giving
yeah.
them like five. I think we give them £5, £5 British each, which is like twenty
Wow.
pounds, which God knows what that is in rupees. And this was like early 90s.
Yeah,
So,
wow, yeah,
you know,
wow.
it would have been massive for them. And then at the end of it, we'd tip them another £5. It's
Yeah, exactly,
nothing to us.
exactly.
And they was with, you know, they would turn up at the gates for 3 days. They was our sole driver for 3 days for
Wow,
£5,
man.
and then we'd give another £5 at the end of it. And you know, they were just so grateful, and they'd just take us anywhere. Oh, you want to go
Yeah.
to the local market? Do you want to go to the like snake fighting mongoose? You want to go here? Do you want to... They just took us everywhere, everywhere. But again, they were just so grateful, but just so jolly and
Man,
fascinating to
something
see that kind of
it,
third world kind of life.
it is fascinating, and I guess I can't comprehend the third world until I fully immerse myself in it. And you know, like I could go down the road here talking about like, oh, what we take for granted, blah 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 blah, all that. But it's more like they the third world impresses me so much on so many different levels. Like I literally can get everything that I want or everything that I need, but it's so localized. Like it's not formalized like in first world countries. It's very localized, and there's things that you got to know, or it's like a rapport building and respect
Mm.
building situation. It's very relational. It's like because I've built such strong relationships, because I'm learning the language, I can get anything that I want. Like there's icing on the cake because I'm doing that and developing that. And it's all super interesting to me. Where was I going with this? I love being so impressed. Oh, one of the main things I'm impressed by, like, you know, Vietnam and Indonesia are same with being on the little Scoopies, which is the little Vespers, if you guys haven't seen that. Vespers everywhere. Shum, shum, shum. You can see like one person fits on a Vespa in Australia. You know what I mean? They can have 5 people on a Vespa over here. It is absolutely crazy. I've seen a picture of someone carrying a mattress on their Vespa in front, you know, like 2 dudes, one of them on the front of it leaning over the handlebars, one of them behind holding up this mattress, you know, like I'm like, these are like they, where there's a will, there's a way.
Well,
Um,
at least it's a soft fall if they fall off it, you know.
That's right. That's very true. Um,
I mean, I don't know about your
that
experience, but one thing I experienced in Pakistan and the third world countries is people are generally happier than first world countries.
that's where I was going with this, man. I'm like, I've not seen even the slightest of road rage over here. And there's like the road rules on a tour yesterday. The Vietnamese tour guide named Van, by the way, she is amazing. I picture that she's like the Vietnamese Wednesday Adams is exactly what she was like. She was deadpan, short, black hair, like just covered. Like I loved her so much. Like it's almost like she did a comedy routine. Like I loved her. Um,
You love everyone though, Danny, to be fair.
I do have such a love for people. She she said that there's no road rules over here, and I know that that can't be true. And simultaneously, like if the culture treats it like there's no road rules and everyone's just on this social, like everyone's on this flow and this trust. She said that she goes, how do we all cross the road? And she goes, you close your eyes and walk. And she's laughing, you know. But like the point is no one gets mad at each other because everyone just trusts the flow. And I've not seen anyone get properly angry. I've heard the occasional, and the beep means excuse me. All the beeps mean excuse me, beep
Yeah.
beep coming through, beep beep, excuse me. Like I've heard, I think twice in the last few months, I've heard like a like I'm
Oh
mad
yeah.
at you.
Yeah. Wow, that's and considering how chaotic it looks.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's like that trust and respect. They don't do that in the first world because it's like no, they want people to be driving on the edge so they can find them for anything and everything.
interesting.
You one kilometer over the limit, no, that's it. You're fine. You know, there's no trust here, which is why there's more being. One thing I noticed because I've done a lot of driving throughout my working life North London and England and then Australia and all that lot. One thing I found is because they've got so many people on edge on fining for speeding, you get more accidents. You end
It's
up
interesting because I've thought about
people having to watch their, their speedometer and not watch the road.
yeah, fully. I can't stand having to watch my speedo, man. Like it fully takes me out of the present of the flow of what the road's doing. So I am seriously preferring living in the third world. I actually, in all honesty, I've lost my license in Australia for the second time in the last couple of years right now because I live up a mountain, right? And it's like a 50-kilometer, like it's such a flowing, beautiful road, and it's dynamic and it's smooth, and I love driving it. And I'll sit on 70 most of the way, and then I
Yeah,
lose my
that's it.
license.
They'll
And
be
I'm
hid,
like,
they'll be hid behind a tree somewhere, or yeah.
Hmm.
I've actually got a clean license for the first time in years.
that's
Absolutely
hilarious.
clean, no points on it, nothing.
What's your secret?
Uh, cruise control,
Nice.
and I don't like giving the Queensland Police my money. I'd rather utilise it for something a bit more fruitful. Invest in my mental health and things like that.
Man, that's what's really cool about being over here. Like, I like that you say invest in something that's more fruitful, because it feels like my money's incredibly fruitful over here because I feel like I'm supporting a whole village the moment that I pay. Like, I love tipping. I'm completely okay with there being a different price for locals than there is for Westerners, right? And we're all in the know that this white man is being charged a different price than what a local would be charged. I'm completely okay with that system. Like, I actually love that system. I'm like, sweet, like, you're welcome. Here, yeah, my money's going from a Western pocket. Like, I get paid predominantly only by Westerners. I don't get paid by anyone in the third world. I pay people in the third world. And that's it. And no one told me that my money, instead of going to, like, I don't want to go too deep down, like like monopolies and duopolies, but like the Woolworths Limited and Wesfarmers, which own Coles in Australia and also own Masters Hardware. One of them owns Bunnings, one of them owns Masters Hardware. That at least, so $1 out of $4 out of every $4 spent in Australia will go to one of those two companies. And they've had a duopoly on Australia for the last however many decades, and say one of them puts a special on bread and milk and one of them puts a special on rice and beans and juice, right? They watch each other week by week, and then when they bring the prices back to normal, it's slightly risen. It's part of the reason why things have inflated in Australia so much over our generation, that $100 used to fill up your shopping trolley, and now it barely covers the bottom. Like, you hardly get your juices and your whatever. You get me? That I didn't know that instead of spending all of my money instead of sending a lot of my money to those two big companies in Australia, and the rest of the money would be going to predominantly big companies like that as well, unless I put in a lot of effort to shop local, which is what I've done in the last couple of years. Shop local on the mountain, buy organic, do the thing. Tamborine Mountain is where I live, if anyone's super curious, when I'm in Australia.
Yeah, it's a bit easier to do it at Tamborine Mountain because there's no real Coles and
there's
no big chains up that way, which is good.
Well, that's what I've done deliberately, because I'm like, I want to know where my money's going, and if it's supporting local farmers, like that's so much more powerful to me. Like, I prefer it. Whereas over here, it's like no matter where I spend my money, it's supporting families. Like, it's really intense eating at the local warungs and like just feeling the feeling of like exactly what you said, how grateful everyone is, how grateful everyone is, that I feel like the ripple effect of where my dollar goes to is further into people's families and literally on their table, and it's having an impact that's greater than just adding to the pile in some rich families, some rich families' locker, like in their vault.
Yeah, and this is amazing insight for those that travel, because a lot of people who travel wouldn't even think of this, wouldn't even think of the local economy that they're helping prop up
Mm.
or helping flourish.
Yeah.
You know, I remember years ago, I was in Greece on holiday in Rhodes, and we wanted to find a decent restaurant. So we'd been going to, there was a little bar right next to our hotel, and we'd
Yeah.
go there, we'd have a couple of drinks before we went into town. And we asked the guy, and he was a local, and he says, "Oh, where's a good place to go and eat?" And he says, "Oh, there's this little restaurant up in the mountains, up in the hills." So it says, all you need to do is like find a taxi driver, give him the name of the restaurant, which was called Sandaman or something like that, and he'll know exactly where it is, and you know, and they'll take you. So we find, you know, the next night he finds this taxi driver. "I would like to go to Sandaman." So he drives up the hills. Is that, you know, wasn't even like driving up Tambourine Mountain, probably about halfway. You know, it was a hill, not a mountain. And we gets there, and there's this. We're expecting to see a building. There's no building. There's just a courtyard in an old monastery with pine trees and a peacock. Tables.
Really?
Yeah, tables. Right. So the first time I went there was a big group of us, about 12 or 13 of us. So we sit at this really long table, no menus, and the guy just starts bringing out the food. It's like proper Greek meze, and there's like, you know, there's everything's made locally. The wine, it's even the copper carafes of wine were made locally. With just these little battered copper carafes full of red, white, rosé, you know, and everything. And we all ate till we was absolutely full. And all he wanted was €12 each from us. And so we just all got a 20 euro note here. Here you go.
Yeah.
And then because we was there for 2 weeks, we kept going regularly. And then we got to know him, and he said, "Look, let us know when one of your last nights is, and give us a heads up the night before, and I'll go fishing."
Nice.
And so we you know, I think that about 2 nights before we left, we said, "Yeah, look, tomorrow night's going to be our last night." And he goes, "Okay, thanks, letting us know." He went fishing that day, caught a load of prawns, octopus, fish, everything, and did a lot of fresh fish meze that night for us.
Yeah.
And again,
Man,
it's just
this-
like you know, just these local, and that's just
Mm.
normal for them.
This is a lesson, everyone listening, in creating a relationship. Like creating a relationship. Like every interaction that I'm in is a relationship, right? That is my forte in when it comes to coaching and stuff as well. Communication in relationship and creating that intimacy in relationship. And it doesn't need, and I don't mean physical intimacy. We don't begin with physical intimacy. We begin with emotional intimacy and intellectual intimacy. And so if I'm willing to have a conversation and get to know you and learn about you, right? All of a sudden there's intimacy there. Picture it like it's like the little tubes that you want to fill up. It's like we don't need to start at physical intimacy. People move too quickly when it comes to relationships like that. If we fill up these other 2 tubes, that's intellectual intimacy and emotional intimacy, and if we have a standard for how high they must be before we bring in any physical intimacy, if we're talking partnership relationship, that, you know, if you're talking intellectual intimacy, there must be a level of humor and banter there before I begin getting physically intimate with someone that I want to be in more of a relationship, partnership style thing. On a bigger level, in everything being a relationship, develop more emotional intimacy. Like, is such a thing that I push all my clients, advise all, that's better. Advise all my clients to do. They're like, hey, like, who are your close friends, or who have you developed a deep connection with like that you'd be sad if you lost that person out of your life? Like, who are your 100 closest people on an unconscious level? I get this from Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote Sapiens. He's an amazing anthropologist. If anyone wants to read that book, read Sapiens. It's great. And he essentially says that you've got 100 closest people in your world on an unconscious level. Every time I say that to people, people go, "I don't even have 100 friends."
That's just what I was thinking. I was like,
well, you do, Roy.
I probably would if I went through it. I'd probably get there.
And you'd be surprised who's in there on an unconscious level. Who have you thought about? Who are the 100 people that you've thought about the most over the last few years? Right? It's obvious that your son's in there, Roy. Like, he's one of your top ones.
Yeah, it'd be top one.
Yeah. Like people that you've done a lot of facilitation work with the team and stuff in the last year, they'd be in there. You'd be surprised how how high up they'd be in your unconscious. It's almost like these 100 people sitting, picture them sitting at the table and sitting at a table in your mind, like they are your unconscious people that you tune into to get answers. Oh, like what would this person do? What would this person do? What's this person say about this topic? You know, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't actually literally need to be anyone that's alive. Like I'd say Alan Watts is one of mine, but like Alan Watts is that just because I listen to him so much on YouTube, he's up here. You know, what would
Yeah.
Alan say about this? You get me? That it doesn't literally have to be someone who's close to me. This is how people can be super sad when a celebrity dies. Right?
Oh yeah,
If
yeah.
they're listening to that celebrity every single day and tuning into their words, like that rapper, that they love, and they really feel their poetry and the poetics of the way that they see the world, and then that person dies, and the person grieves. Oh, but it's a celebrity. I shouldn't be grieving. It's like on an unconscious level, on a tribal, primal level, they're one of your closest 100 people.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying in this random little tangent of a rant is, could you consciously become aware of who your closest 100 are? And is there some people of that closest 100 that you'd like to kick out?
Yeah, that's
And
an
some-
interesting concept.
And some
yeah.
people, some people that you'd like to bring up that list. Like if you heard me say that Alan Watts is one of my closest 100, he'd actually be probably close. Like he'd be in my top 20, the amount that I hear that man's voice, right?
Yeah.
And like, would it be productive for your mind, for the way that you think on a daily basis, to put a deep thinker or quite a philosophical person into that top 20 to be able to guide you in how you see the world as well, in what lens you see the world through?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, someone I've been listening to a lot recently is Jordan Peterson.
And that'll help you.
Yeah.
That'll help you like really be in your masculinity in a deep way in this chapter of your life. But maybe that'll stop serving you in say 6 months from now. And maybe it really helps you in the way that you show up now. But then eventually you're like, Jordan, you're a bit much, man. Okay, I got it. I hear it. I get it. I've got to be this version of myself. I get it. And you've got it integrated. And then you go, maybe I need more of a gentle perspective, or like more of a top down on the world, like a more zoomed out perspective than like being here, be a man, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's probably where I'm at the moment, bringing in a bit more masculinity, because I'm listening to some of like Andrew Tate stuff as well. He's very, very direct. And I like what he says though. You know, very black and white in the gender roles at the moment, which is good for my journey at the moment. Yeah,
100%, man. And like, it's good for you. I just said the word etheric. I feel like your mind works very etheric on other levels. So like,
well, of the 100 people, I was thinking like my 100 people, like there'd be 14 of them would be spirit guides, you know, because I'm conversing with them pretty much every day, you know.
Yeah, man, so, fully. And so they're incredibly etheric and spacey and out there. And then you get these Jordan Peterson ones that go, bam, this is how you relate as a man. And you go, fuck, I've got to show up like that. And I'll practice showing up like that. And it's powerful because you're a masculine role model to your son as well, Roy. And so rather than just being etheric, it's beautiful to also have these traits here as a human being, boots on the rubble, in trouble, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a chat with my son about that the other day, the masculine role, saying, look, because he says he was talking about one of his friends' uncle was over, or I think it was an uncle, irrelevant. His uncle was over, and he was Brazilian or ex-Brazilian special forces. And he said, like, you know, between him and you, they're the only two people I fear in life. And I said, well, what do you mean you fear me? It's like, well, because like you've just got that edge to you that, you know, because we sometimes play fight and stuff like that, and because I'm ex martial arts and ex forces and all that kind of thing. So, and he says you've just got that edge that's respectfully scary, you know. And I knew where he's coming from, and I said, well, it's interesting because I had the same thing with my dad. You know, we had this very jovial relationship, but there was an edge to him that you just didn't want to push. And I'm quite happy that he's got that with me, because that's what I try to, you know, and we need those healthy boundaries. And
Yeah, and you
society's
need
trying to remove those and saying that's not appropriate, but it bloody well is.
rather than healthy boundaries, I'd see it as the healthy strengths,
Mm,
that like that healthy power, that
yeah.
that you know, and it's just bringing up Jordan Peterson quotes in my head now all of a sudden about like that being safe doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to be a dangerous man. It means that
Mm,
you have the ability to be a dangerous man, but you choose not to be. And so I like that you've shown that to your son, that you have the ability to be dangerous, that you choose where the line is. I
yeah.
think that's super, like, that's a super important trait to impart on our young men. It's to not be completely incapable of showing up in our strengths,
Mm,
which is what another great book to read. No More Mr. Nice Guy.
okay.
it's
That I might put that on my list actually, because I've just finished a book today,
it's
which
powerful.
was
And like when people talk about, yeah, tell me about that book.
what I've
You
just
finished?
finished.
Yeah.
12 and a half by Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah, cool. Oh yeah, Gary V.
Yeah, Gary V, yeah.
So No More Mr. Nice Guy goes into what's happened to men over, like, since the wars, essentially since the world wars, what's happened to men. Because, and I hear a lot of people, I don't want to go down this track, we're not going to go too deep down it, because i I seriously, I don't complain about this kind of thing. Like, a lot of people complain, or I hear podcasts that are a lot about like, oh, what happened to men and that kind of thing. I really love how the world is right now, and I think it's completely perfect from a top-down perspective, on a
Always is.
beautifully zoomed out perspective. There's nothing going wrong. Simply
No.
is what it is. People are like, anyone that speaks about like save the earth, I'm like, the earth's fine.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
earth's been blown
It's
up.
doing its
I'm
own
like,
thing, you know. We're
yeah.
symbiotic with her, but she's doing her own thing.
I'm like, the Earth's been blown up by meteors and destroyed dinosaurs and shit before. There's been like 5 great destructions on the Earth. She comes back. She bounces back. If we kill ourselves as human beings on the planet, the Earth's fine. The Earth's still spinning. The Earth's, people think that we're destroying nature. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, nature's waiting for our society to collapse, and then rats are just going to run rampant through here, and then everything's going to overgrow all these buildings. Like, it'll
Yeah,
be
yeah.
fine. Like,
Well, I watched a video ages ago of how Chernobyl is these days. And like,
yeah,
still, men can't go there, but there's wolves and deer, and the plants are growing and everything like that. And it's like, okay, so that's nature going, yeah, we'll keep men out with this radiation thing, but the animals, no, they can come in, they'll be fine. They're not
they're
growing
fine.
2 heads or anything like that. They're just perfectly fine.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's
I
it.
was saying no more Mr. Nice Guy. What happened in the last 100 years with men and women, and roles definitely changed, and that's fine. Like, it's beautiful, and women having different roles all of a sudden left men in a who am I if I don't provide? Because a deeply undercurrent fear in a lot of men. Oh, yeah, let's go there. So I want you guys to tune into this on a gentle frequency. What my work is taking people down to their deepest unconscious emotions so that they can process those deepest unconscious emotions, so that they know where their behavior is coming from. My behavior, if I'm coming from a place of love, and that I love all of my deepest emotions and know all of my deepest patterning, I can behave consciously. If I'm unaware of that, then the unconscious emotions drive the behavior. Now, an unconscious fear for men is, I'm afraid that I'm unworthy of love unless I provide blank, unless I provide all the attention, all the affection, all the orgasms, all the money, unless I give, I'm unworthy of love, is the pattern that plays out for a lot of men, right? And that's talking men and women. The I'm unworthy, the I'm afraid that I'm unworthy of love, full stop, is actually there for every single person in the population.
Mm.
And I could explain on a deeper level why that's there for every single human being. We'd go super etheric and super cosmic, and we'd go into deeply into the concept of God. And we can go there if you want, Roy. I want you to steer me a little bit. I'm a
Hey,
rogue
if you want to go
vessel.
there, go there, because this is gold right now. So
So that fear that drives us, become aware of that fear. Anyone listening, I really welcome you to become aware of that fear and love it. There's no way, like, I've processed a lot of emotions. I've processed a lot of trauma for people. It's a weird thing to say, but I'm not sure whether that emotion can actually ever be processed. The fear that I'm unworthy of blank, the fear that I'm unworthy of love, worthy of connection, unworthy of money, unworthy of success, like unworthy if I fail, like if I fail at the thing, like unworthy of that goal that I want to reach. It sometimes shows up as these words: not enough, right? Worthiness and enoughness, same, right? What's often just above them is afraid that I'll be abandoned, right? If you, one of my mentors says the line to me: in a family of thieves, the person that doesn't steal feels guilty.
yeah,
So, so
yeah. Well,
we want to.
as a spiritual being, I don't fit in with my family. Never have done. I've always felt like an outsider. So I've got two brothers, two sisters. I never fit in with a clique with my brothers. I mean, they were older than me as well, so there was generational stuff going on as well. It wasn't just that, but yeah, I always felt like I never fit in. And there's so many social groups that I've tried to fit in and then didn't fit. So eventually I got to the point going, well, I better fit into my life and start there and fit into that and then see what happens after that. But
That's exactly it, man. That's exactly it. Like the need for belonging, the want for belonging is an external validation of am I worthy or am I enough? That question of the fear. And it's completely beautiful that you see that in you and that you own that in you and that you know where your choices are coming from in that, because everyone's coming from there on a subtle level.
yeah, that's
Like
it. Yeah,
whether you're doing the work, whether you're doing the work consciously or whether you're avoiding the work, or whether you don't know what the bloody work is, you're doing the work,
yeah.
right?
There's always work to be done. Well, I was
Because
doing some the other day with my son because yeah, it was yesterday actually, and I was really super proud of myself because I went to get my car. I was on my way to. I actually met up with Ty and Ty Erickson. I met up with him for a catch up, and then he told me about this car wash because I wanted to get my car washed, and I was on the way, which meant going near where my son lived, and so I rang him and I said, "What are you up to?" "Nothing." "Do you want to grab lunch?" "No." "What are you doing?" "You're doing nothing. You're probably playing PlayStation. You're doing nothing. You don't want to grab a couple of hours with your old man for lunch?" "No." So I'm like, "All right." And I'm going to process. So I was like going through these emotions, and I said, "Mate, that hurts." And so to actually then voice that without getting angry, without taking the role of, well, I'm your father, do as you're told kind of energy, I was just like, well, that hurts, and had a conscious conversation with him.
I love that.
So it was beautiful. And then, and I'd be absolutely honest, I had to force myself to tell him that I love him. And I tell him that every time. And then, now after about half an hour, then it went light-hearted. So I was like, yeah, that's good that I'm able to then voice how I feel when he's just being a teenager, a 17-year-old, and don't want to hang out with parents. And
Yeah.
that's simply probably what it was. I get that he probably just wanted to play PlayStation with his mates. Still didn't lessen the hurt.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole backstory behind why that hurt, and I was playing into that. And I stood up to that backstory and went, actually, I'm going to voice that it hurt. I'm going to have a chat with him. I'm not going to get angry because that would be on me. That would be wrong of me. And then just said, yeah. And then at the end of the conversation, well, love you, mate. You enjoy the rest of your day. So next time I'll be able to do it better and just go, yeah, no worries, mate. You do anything. So it was a beautiful moment.
I admire that, brother. I love that you can have those conversations with your son.
Yeah. And I always see that if I do that, that shows him that he can then do it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, modeling. Our parents' modeling is one of the most impactful things when it comes to our behavior. Yeah.
Yeah.
And teenagers, for any parents listening, teenagers are always going to rebel against authority. Surprise.
Yeah.
And you are the authority in his life, as he said.
Hmm.
Like that, you're one of the only people in the world that scares him.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, does he want to be around that fear? Does he have the capacity to be around that fear right now? It
Yeah,
sounds
maybe.
like he doesn't because he said no.
Yeah, maybe I didn't think about it that way. But yeah, to be honest, I just think he just wanted to play PlayStation with his mates, which is fair.
And but what's going on subtly? What's going on in the undercurrents of that? And is that fear? Like, is that capacity? Maybe he's emotionally or hormonally in a state of just wanting to stay at home and only having the capacity to eat at home and play PlayStation,
Yeah,
right? And that's where his nervous system's at. And so something that may be really great for his nervous system in this phase that he's at is being outside a lot more and being in trees and even like camping, sleeping on the ground, that kind of thing. So it comes up for me.
yeah. Well,
That's how
he's going camping for the next 3 days with his mates,
perfect.
so that's
So that's
great. So,
perfect.
yeah,
And you'll actually notice that'll shift him on a subtle level because it'll bring him back to his humanness a lot more. So it may be perfect time for you to catch up with him next week. He may be a lot more connected to on a subtle level. And I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
saying it consciously.
I think he's with me for 2 weeks over Christmas because his mum's going back to the UK for a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah, it's
So,
Christmas.
so yeah, I know. Yeah, Christmas. Yeah, well, another year done.
Hmm.
Been an interesting year, and next year's just gonna get even more interesting.
I love it.
And so, cutting back into something you briefly mentioned, and I know it's a passion of yours because you briefly mentioned that you do poetry. So on
Yeah.
episode 13, I had Kylie on, another the
I
goddess of
love it.
poetry, and it was just oh yeah, it's like 50 Shades of Grey that episode was.
What poems did she do?
Uh, she did my God, my monster.
She's so great.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Because actually, we actually went to a poetry night together not so long back, and I had a poem ready to read, and I was like, that's the past. It's all past dark stuff, and I just wanted to. I'm a light being now. I'm all about fun, so I just wrote one that day that was fun and comedy.
I love that.
Mm. Yeah, so everybody laughed. So I got some good laughs. So that made my night. Yeah, if you write something funny and people laugh, it's always good validation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always
What kind of
there you go.
what kind of poem would you like to hear from me?
Pick the latest one you've written.
Right, I can't do that because I'm in Vietnam right now and don't have access to almost
Okay, one you can remember.
Yeah, okay, let's do that. You know my apple tree one. Would you like that one, or do you like my heart walls one more? Like what?
Yeah, apple tree
We're
one would be
talking
good.
emotions. Apple tree one.
Yeah.
All right, I'm stepping outside. Do this. This is cute.
So for those listening, he's an amazing poet. I love how he delivers it, and for those watching on YouTube, you get to see it too.
Yay! This is fun.
Live from Vietnam,
Love from Vietnam. Yeah. It's
Saigon.
Saigon. It's interesting for me not being able to see any mountains as it's all. So this is unusual for me to only be able to see buildings.
You bring your energy to the show. You're bringing the mountain with you.
I carry the mountain with me everywhere you're at. So, are we ready? You want to
Yep.
go on mute for a moment, right? I come forward from the grove, trees surround me. I leave you bound to remembering earth being, remembering that you are a product of growth. This is an apple tree, produces apples. This earth produces people. For an apple to think itself separate from the tree, whilst growing on the tree, would you not think it mad? Would you not say, "You're mad, apple. You're a product of the growth of the tree"? And then you catch yourself calling an apple mad, and you realize that, well, you yourself are mad. Well, congratulations, for you are mad. For you are not on this earth as a visitor. You are the delicious, shining, ripe product of the earth squeezed out from her roots. Bless your cotton socks inside your fancy boots. You are the epitome of this world's greatest fruit. Do you think an apple knows that it can produce apple trees? That must seem absurd. Similarly, do you remember that you can create worlds with your impeccable words? Mind your tongue, watch your curses, for done well we create universes, simply with our dreams. Our mind's eye, how it sees, visions, endless scenes. It floats from scene to scene. Picture a tree by a stream, the leaves reflected in its gleam. The air teems with the seeds the tree throws into the breeze. You see, you can see, this vision's not just for me. This dreaming, we all dream, we all cast colors collectively. It's what dreams up the dream and keeps the theme the theme. Thus, dear souls, let's dream up together that our words move the weather, that intention, when it's aligned, moves the world so sublime towards heaven. Drop deeper through the layers. Do we have free choice, or are we merely players of some giant cosmic mind whose brain is the cosmos? Every star flying through the sky, a neuron firing and wiring in its wildly wide, otherworldly mind. I hear you pondering in the lull. Are we brain cells inside a massive cosmic skull? If the apple contains the apple tree inside within its seed, then what are we? The box we kept ourselves in has disappeared, and in its place we make space for the being, the cosmic created being that we have always been. Our mind morphs. Our memories extend to the former speeches of when we began. We were born at the Big Bang. Today we remember. Today we juxtapose the joyous joviality of the great cosmic joke with the external tension, till it's turned into tenderness and trust. The racket is relaxed as we rest into this raunchy rendezvous. I shiver and shake at the sharpness of this shocking shadow show. I want to see inside your soul and know the truths you know. I want to see inside our soul and remember the truths we know. I throw it to the omnipresent mind that we're all connected and trust. By our expression, the external world will be affected. Eyes to the skies, I ask for a sign to show that we're right where we're meant to be. I ask you all to step forward, be brave and be seen. You're all leaders, you're all role models. If I ever forget that I'm connected to the apple tree, I'll look to you, fellow earthly soul, to remind me.
Wow. Very deep, very thought provoking. Yes, stunning. Amazing stuff.
Thank you, dear man.
And so once you're back in Bali, what are you just continuing the program that you're doing with Ange? Is that
Yeah.
sort of that the ongoing for the near future?
100%. Ange is my business partner. So my forte is in clearing the past. I like it really is like clearing any past traumas, past emotions. Like I am certain in my stability that anything can be cleared. Right? Anything can be cleared. Any emotions can be cleared. Excuse me. Any emotions can be cleared.
Totally agree.
Any past traumas can be cleared. And I've got beautiful processes and beautiful tools for doing that. And that's what I do best.
Mm.
Ange, her forte is in developing business for people. She moves people forward. It's like I focus on their past, right? Or I focus on anything that's been holding them back in the past, and she focuses on their future. And when things come up, as they will, and as they do,
Mm.
like because people all of a sudden don't do what their tasks were for their business, for their purpose moving forward, right? That's where they come to me again, and we look at where that's coming from, where that behavior is coming from in them. So it's been a beautiful symbiosis of Ange and I being together. And we have 6-week programs, and higher end programs have come about in the last few months. But you've got to go through the 6-week breakthrough programs first.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. That's what we do.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Yeah, I know you're both very, very powerful people that really invoke change, and yeah, and you're doing it in Bali, or from Bali anyway. Bali is a home base, which is a beautiful place to be. The modern world,
That's,
the modern world.
that's it. We love it.
Mm. Yeah, I find, like, I mean, I do pass clearing as well. That's part of mine. But for me, I like lifting people up, showing them how powerful they really are, showing them how amazing they really are. That's mine. That's my mission.
I love that that's what you do, Ray. I really love that.
Because, you know, my intuitive ability, I can see where their next level is, and then I can show them that. And then I've got that past clearing stuff, got the ability to go, right, this is how you get there. I'll show you the journey first, and then show you the processes needed to get there.
Seeing people at their highest, man, is like if more people did that, then people would behave in their highest more.
Yeah. I've done the lessons of seeing people at the highest that never wanted to act like that, and then I copped the lesson, and included myself. You know, did the journey of doing that myself. But yeah, the main mission. So this podcast part of that movement forward.
I love that, man.
Learning how to be present with others.
Yep.
Being heard as well.
We listen. We're here to listen. So let's wrap this up. It feels like the energy's wrapping up.
That's it. It certainly does. Yes. Well, well, that's been a beautiful, beautiful session. Really appreciate you coming on to the podcast show. This will be out just before Christmas. One day next week it'll be out. And and I'll put all your social links in the podcast descriptions and on YouTube as well. So for those that want to reach out and find out about Danny's programs with Ange, the links will be in the show notes. And that's it. Let's wrap that up. And thanks again, Danny, for coming on. It's always beautiful to chat with you. I miss you.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. And thank you, listeners. And I love that you miss me, man. I love that your heart goes out to me like that. I'll be back soon.
Yeah. Well, I was actually, interesting enough, I was looking at flights to Bali the other day. So maybe in the new year. Maybe in the new year, I'll come over for a few days. If you're still out there, of course. But if not, when you're back, we'll have to catch up.
100%.
Awesome, mate. Well, we'll hit the outro, and thanks very much. And we'll see you again soon. And thanks all those for listening. Thanks everyone for those that are watching. And we'll see you in the next episode.